Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. This is episode 36 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Karl is on assignment building ice sculptures, but I am here wearing a polo in his honor. John DeConi has a backwards hat. John Smith wearing glasses. It's like he's here. This faction of wrestling fans will never abandon you because it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. As mentioned, this is episode 36. It's our Boneyard match. Drew McIntyre defeating Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman subbing in for Roman Reigns episode. My name is Ryan Joy, and I am joined today by Mr. John Smith and John DeConi. We're going to take you through the week. Here are the headlines. Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce earns a Universal Championship match at the Royal Rumble. Alexa Bliss spits fire at Randy Orton in wake of Drew McIntyre's COVID-19 diagnosis. Ace Austin wins the Super X Cup. Gary Mehaffy is here to talk about the number one contenders match from NXT UK. I'm here to discuss New Japan MLW Ring of Honor. I'm going to reveal number 12 on Karl's top 30 WrestleMania matches as we continue to count down to the Showcase of the Immortals this March. Make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show to hear the details on how to win the Jim the Anvil Neidhart autograph picture, courtesy of Sideline Sports and WWE Memorabilia. We're going to make our picks for this week's upcoming shows, presented by Minutes to Bell Time and sponsored by Pro Wrestling Pick'em. But we're going to main event the show with picking Night 2 of New Year's Smash and Impact's Hard to Kill. But we will curtain jerk the show today with NXT and Finn Balor retaining the NXT Championship. So, let's start. John Smith, Finn Balor defeated John DeConi. Finn Balor defeated Kyle O'Reilly to retain the NXT title after O'Reilly tapped out to a abdominal stretch crossface thing. Take it away, John.
So they only gave this match about 17 or 18 minutes, which, as we know, it's already been a main event. It could have probably gone for 45, but they loaded it up with psychology, which I'm always a big fan of. We had Kyle O'Reilly making a couple of attempts early on at kicks and other strikes to that previously broken jaw of Finn Balor. We had O'Reilly getting put in an abdominal stretch early on. And Finn kind of got his receipt, if you will, for the broken jaw when O'Reilly broke the abdominal stretch by biting the ring rope, and Finn went on to kick him into the ring ropes, and O'Reilly would then be favoring his jaw for the rest of the match. And then O'Reilly would work on the arm, kicking at the liver like last time, wind up hurting Finn's arm. He would go for an arm bar, transition, flipping around to the good arm. He was working on the bad arm. Finn was in trouble for a little while there until Kyle charged, and Finn hit him with a wicked liver shot. Kyle kind of crumbled and backed away, and then allowed Finn to lock in that crucifix-style crossface and get the tap-out win.
Would you say better or worse than the TakeOver match?
You know what? I wouldn't want to split hairs between the two of them. I think they were both fantastic. This one being a little bit shorter, but no less intense, in my opinion.
Yeah, great match to finish off the show. Another great match on the show was Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley. Raquel got a big W in that match, John DeConi.
Yeah, this was the last woman standing match. We had about 5 minutes of them beating each other in, out, and around the ring. Before Rhea would take a backdrop and unfortunately almost missed the announce desk. She kind of landed high on her hip and tailbone there, just enough to make the table explode the way it was supposed to, but also just enough to make it look like, that was almost a really, really bad start. Then Raquel would cover her in the table pits and some of the chairs, but Rhea beat the 10 count there. They beat each other up some more. This match was pretty very physical. What else would you expect between these two? At about the 10-minute mark, they made their way up the ramp. Raquel boot to knock Rhea off of the staging and tumbling down the steps and into the back area. Rhea tackled Raquel through a glass door. Rhea would eventually hit a senton off of the locker room, off the lockers backstage, and through a catering table. This is when Dakota would get involved. She appeared out of nowhere with a kendo stick, but Rhea would take care of her in fairly short order and wound up locking her in a locker. The ladies made their way back out to the top of the ramp, where Rhea sunk in a standing cloverleaf with aid from a steel chair to create something of a crossface effect. Raquel eventually got out of it. Rhea hit almost kind of a Death Valley driver into the LED board, but Raquel would eventually land that one-arm power bomb off of half of the ring steps that had made their way up the ramp through a gimmicked section of staging and through the floor, and Raquel would crawl out just in time to beat a 10 count for the victory.
NXT does a great last person standing match, but John Smith, is Dakota Kai still in the locker?
Word is that they didn't even know which locker she was in.
Oh man. Yeah. So some of your favorites were also had matches on New Year's Eve. Well, Karrion Kross getting a win over Damian Priest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Kross fan, and this was the perfect reintroduction of Kross back into the main spotlight. Priest with his track record gives Kross some immediate credibility back in the fold of everything, especially considering he had that clavicle injury. All of his strength is still there. You can see him dominating Priest all match. Priest probably had the upper hand 20% of the match. That's about it, of a 15-minute match. It was just, getting beat up all over the place, and then a nice little forearm to the back of the head finish. I haven't seen that from Kross before, but it looks like he's using the Doomsday Saito as a setup to that now instead of just pinning people off of it, or one would assume. I know that they like to do, off-brand finishes in NXT sometimes where you don't necessarily have to hit your finish to win, but I think this is leading towards it, like that's his new finish, which is pretty cool. But I mean, I like the Saito, but it wasn't high impact as much as it should be for a big guy.
Yeah, Priest was a little overconfident in that match, right? Towards the end, he's like, I'm still standing. Well, he wasn't for long, right?
Yeah, he didn't shut up. I don't know what that was all about. Maybe he just wanted one last hurrah before he goes up to the main roster, because that's what we've been hearing. SpongeBob, who knows? But this could be the last time we see Priest, at least on a NXT pay-per-view setting.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Santos Escobar and Grand Metalik had a good match there earlier in the show. Santos Escobar retained the interim Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah, we actually went over this one also on your podcast, and I was saying that this is exactly what Lucha Libre should be. It doesn't need to be flip to bounce all over the place. It doesn't have to be an acrobat show. You can do plenty of that and have a nice psychological match with some power moves involved, and this was the perfect combination of the two. And even when they botched Escobar's foot kind of slipped on the ring apron, on the skirt, but he still was able to hold Metalik when he hit the floor and still powerbombed him and saved it. So, they're still being safe in there and, doing their thing. So I was real happy with this match. And I love what Escobar's doing for that title. And I know people say he's the interim champion, but I think he's doing more for it than I forgot his name over in UK. Devlin, right?
Yeah, Jordan Devlin.
Yeah, Jordan Devlin. I think he's doing more for the title than Devlin ever could have.
Well, I think obviously when we get to the ladder match sometime down the road. I think we'll see what they both can do. So, also on the show we had Ziya Lee returning to action. She faced inaction, and she's back. And she's got a mysterious figure on the ramp supporting her. Total new look. Not somebody you want to get in the way of. Timothy Thatcher suffered a minor injury training for the fight pit, I guess, and so that match got postponed. Gargano's arrived by police escort to NXT. We had a mixed tag match. Kushida and Shotzi got the win over Johnny and Candice after Kushida rolled up Johnny. And then we also, Mr. Regal let us know that there's going to be a women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Classic. And John Smith, you and I actually discussed this on the Daily Wrestling News Show last week. You threw out some names of tag teams that you think might be in the Women's Tag Team Classic. And John DeConnie, I'm going to put you on the spot. You were not forewarned. Who do you think is going to be in the Women's Tag Team Classic? Any women's teams come to mind?
Okay, well, obviously you're going to have Casey and Caden. You probably see Candice and Indy. I mean, I'd love to see Ziya in there. I don't know who her tag team partner would be, but I just know that the women in NXT. I don't always have the most positive things to say about women's wrestling throughout all the brands, but I can't remember the last time I had a bad thing to say about the NXT women's roster. So it's just going to be fantastic no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. We do have some of the men's tag team classics matches that are going to be this week. We'll get to them in a second, but first we want to take a look at how we're doing in the standings for NXT. John Smith still way out in the lead in terms of predictive ability here, 31-9. But all of us went 4-0, except for Mr. Tyler Adelle. But the rest of us all went 4-0. With New Year's Evil predictions, so I guess we called that one right down the line. Now, here's your former Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic tournament winners. Last year was the Broserweights. Before that, Black and Ricochet. Undisputed Era, Authors of Pain, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe. Most of these guys are still in NXT, with the exception of Samoa Joe and Matt Riddle, I guess, or unemployed, I guess, is the other option. But so starting this week, we have 2 matches for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. And John Smith, I'll start with you. Who do you like in the Grizzled Young Veterans and Everrise match?
Well, as we all know, Everrise rules. And I would love to pick them in this match, but I really like the Grizzled Young Veterans. I think this is what's catapulting them to those tag titles next. And I already called that they're going to win this whole thing, so I got to go with them here.
Yeah, that makes sense, don't you think, John DeConnie?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's almost the Grizzled Young Veterans tournament to lose.
Yeah,
the way they seem to be put in front and center.
Yeah, I agree. I think GYV's probably got this whole tournament. Luckily, we don't have to pick that today, but what we do have to pick is the Undisputed Era and Breezango match, which I think is a bit more competitive. John DeConnie, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I don't want to call it an upset if Breezango were to win, but I think the thinking is probably that the Undisputed Era takes it here. And I do think that there'll be some kind of upset in the first round, but I think I'm going to save that for whoever's going up against Gargano in theory, because I think we'll have a little a callback to the curse and have them knocked out in the first round. So give me the Undisputed Era here.
Okay, John Smith.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Undisputed Era also, especially because it's most likely a 4-round tournament. We know 12 teams are in there, so it's probably a 16-team tournament. So I feel like they got to go couple rounds and then lose. The only thing I don't like about that is what's Breezango going to be doing for the next 5 weeks then? Are we not going to be seeing them at all? I prefer to see them on the TV more Undisputed Era, which we've had a lot of in the past few years, but we get what we get. I trust Triple H in the end.
There you go. Maybe we get Breezango facing Oni and Danny for the next 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for NXT and New Year's Evil and this week's NXT. We're going to give you guys an early break today, send you backstage. We'll get you back and you'll be here for the rest of the show. So let me bring in Gary and you guys will go get your groceries, John Smith.
Yeah, you know it. That's what I was going to say, getting my groceries.
All right. Gary, welcome aboard.
Good evening. Well, it was going okay until John Smith said Santos Escobar was doing more than for the Cruiserweight title and Jordan Devlin ever could. It was like, I think if we have another Worlds Collide type pay-per-view, John and I'll have to have like a virtual arm wrestling contest or something. But
yeah, what does that guy know, that Johnson? He does a good job predicting, but I guess he's not no Jordan Devlin fan. So, a great episode of NXT UK this week. We have a killer one coming up next week, and we'll get to those matches in a minute. But first things first, a number one contenders match between Jinny and Piper Niven to kick off NXT UK last week.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to Al last week that over the last sort of month or two, they really have threaded a few storylines in amongst each other, and the callback to Jinny costing Piper her match against Kaylee Ray has been good. And as we said last week, I thought some sort of schmoz, and yes, there was, because obviously Joseph Connors had got himself involved and put himself in harm's way when Piper went to hit her somersault plancha, but and Jinny got the win with her roll up. But to be fair, I thought either the smart money or the easy way to go would be to go with Piper. And while I'm not, I prefer Piper over Jinny, let's say. Yeah, it is a new match. It's an interesting way. It may still end up in a three-way, obviously with two heels going against each other at the moment as it is, but it is an interesting way to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of seem like that might be a good idea. Keep Piper involved, and that way at least you have some sort of face in there. Otherwise, what's Piper going to be doing for the next few weeks? Ben Carter makes his debut on NXT UK last week, and he gets a little rub by being on the Supernova sessions.
The award-winning Supernova sessions, obviously.
Matches. I mean, he should be putting himself in matches, but
not Ben Carpenter, obviously. Also, for anybody who hasn't seen it, anybody watching this, honestly, Noam Dar to me, I wasn't as biggest. Well, I liked him and thought, right, okay, but the more I see of him doing this, he's just tremendous. And the build-up he did, I'm so pleased to have signed Ben Carter. I mean, he is amazing. But to see him come in and have the interaction with Noam Dar, and then in the middle of it for Jordan Devlin to come out and appear disgusted that he wasn't invited on over Ben Carter. But also I actually quite liked the fact it wasn't just, oh, we've got two heels here in Dar and Devlin, we'll just like each other. He didn't, because Devlin was slagging off Noam Dar as well, so I actually loved that. But to build up them being there, and they had the interaction which then led to the challenge being thrown out for the match in the main event that Sid Scala came out and okayed. But it was great to see Ben Carter really being put over as a big deal and coming straight in and being involved in that scene with them. So it was great.
Yeah, it was nice. He comes in with a big interview scene, and then he's already sparring off with Devlin right away. Noam Dar, man, like Sid Scala move over. Noam Dar should be the new GM.
Noam Dar's great. I mean, there's a few wee things, a few wee phrases he says that he's taken from a few UK TV shows, and it's great because some people won't catch it, and I found myself just sitting in my front room laughing at the wee lines. It was absolutely brilliant. It was a really, really good, just a great wee moment.
Now, some people might say that bringing Ben Carter in, giving him that the big stage there with Supernova sessions, and then having him lose in his first match might be kind of a rough way of introducing him as a character. But what say you after that Jordan Devlin victory over Ben Carter?
It's funny because you and I had that conversation when we both saw that the match was happening. It was like, oh, okay, right,
Yeah.
he's not going over here. What's going to happen? But it really was, considering that he came in and quite a lot of people in the UK the casual fan may not have known him. It was really a star-making performance. I mean, the things he did, the moves that he hit. I mean, the match that they had, I mean, it was a 13-minute match. And the stuff that they pulled out, and it was good. There was a lot of good wrestling in it, but when he hit his big moves, like, to be honest, I'm a big fan, although it's risky. When he hit the moonsault reverse DDT off the apron, I mean, I love that as a visual. I'm like, that looks class. And it's all just built. And I know he missed the Phoenix Splash and stuff, but when you had that and Devlin hitting the Spanish Fly and all the things that built up towards the end, that although he lost, you could not fail to watch it and go, you are amazing. You are going to be somebody here, and for the company to give you that match in your first day in, well, fair play. They must have big plans for you and think that you are a big deal. So it was brilliant to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Put him in there with the other side of the whole equation, right? Is you put Carter in there immediately with one of your top talents, and the guy shines, which is how you want a guy to debut, whether he wins or loses. A lot of people, Rampage Brown, for example, come in, do a squash as their debut. Carter's a smaller guy, so it doesn't necessarily make sense, but to show off his moveset and everything in that match, I thought was great.
The easy way, as we said previously during the week, the easy way would have been to put him in with a Jack Stars or put him in with a Levi Muir, somebody who could be there to let him hit some of his moves and go, oh, aren't you good? But the fact that it wasn't, the fact that it was straight in and boom, straight up to the top guys.
I mean, at this point, who hasn't beat Jack Stars? Saxon Huxley.
Me, pretty much. I'm about the only person in the UK wrestling scene who hasn't, I think. But
well, no, Saxon Huxley has an L. And Saxon Huxley got another L when he faced Dave Mastiff on this episode of NXT UK.
Who ironically was set up because Big Dave was standing up for Levi Muir and Jack Stars when Saxon Huxley had been beating them up. Yeah, I mean, it was good. They do obviously. It's been nice to see them build up Saxon Huxley actually and give him another dimension, another side to him. But they obviously do have. They want to keep Dave Mastiff up and around the top echelon, so that if we end up needing another sort of two big boys match, that if he and Walter, if down the line if things happen, that you've got him for that. So they do like Dave, and it was nice. It was good. It was a good convincing win. So
I don't care if you're Saxon Huxley, Jack Stars, A-Kid, or whoever. When Dave Mastiff is running at you in the corner and he does that cannonball, your instinct has to be to get the heck out of there.
Yeah,
that is a scary position to be in. But we do have we had a video package of Tyler Bate talking about how he was learning from his losses and everything like that. When they lost to A-Kid, and it kind of set up. Sam Gradwell was giving him a little bit of side eye, and that set up this match for next week. What do you think? I mean, I don't see any circumstance where Tyler Bate doesn't win this one, but
yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I will say one thing I do just want to say and give props to a lot of those backstage stuff, the stuff with Tyler Bate, the stuff that they did with Dragunov, those videos have been immense. They've been really, really good. Whoever is putting them together visually as well as what's being spoken about is fantastic. But as you say, I was pleased to see when Tyler Bate was talking, I thought, well, okay, they're just keeping him in there. But then when the match was made and with Sam Gradwell, as you say, there's no way that Tyler Bate doesn't win it. But again, it's keeping him in, it's bringing him back, and slowly but surely bringing him back into the mix. So
yeah, absolutely. I think just the fact that he's on the card next week kind of elevates the card. Yeah. It turns out you and me and Al, we're not the only ones that are big Noam Dar fans. Travis is one of the co-hosts of the Daily Wrestling News Show. He is also a fan of Noam Dar. Godlike, actually. I thought that was
No, I'm gonna have to put that to his list of things for 2021 then. He had his list of things he wanted to be. There he is. He's become a deity now as well, so he's all right.
Yeah, that's right. And then I guess the big news for NXT UK next week is our NXT UK Championship match. The big guy Walter against the Heritage Cup winner A-Kid. Nobody's wrestled yet in 2021. Obviously, the 2020 record is better than 0-0, but 2021 they're 0-0. So A-Kid's gotten a big push.
He really has. I mean, I genuinely can't wait for this match. There's some matches when I hear they're happening, I'm like, brilliant. And I heard this one when I remembered it was next week. It was like, oh yes, I can't wait because it should be absolutely amazing. But it is one of those ones where you kind of go, okay, Walter has to win. But then you think, well, A-Kid's getting that push and he needs to keep his momentum. He has to win, but is he going to win the belt or what's it going to happen? Or will somebody from Imperium get involved? Will Alexander Wolf come back? And because he hasn't been, he's kept quiet for the last few weeks or whatever, so maybe he'll come back and cost him. Probably is the way they'll go. But I really can't wait for it. It is a match that everybody will need to go out of their way to see.
I just, if A-Kid can just work in that, what I call like a flying super kick. It's, it's kind of like something out of Street Fighter or whatever. But if he can work that in and Walter can kind of slap it away, I think that'd be a great spot. Yeah, I mean, overall, I picked Walter in this match, but not for lack of trying. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it really will.
All right, well, that's pretty much it. Gary, anything else on your mind before we leave the UK scene here?
No, I mean, I'm just, there's part of me is very biased. Every time I watch an NXT UK episode and there's anything with Aoife Valkyrie on it, I have to say I'm just biased because obviously I've seen her since about her third match, I think, in the ring at all. But again, even the like that, the stuff that they are doing in NXT UK to keep other little storylines going, all of a sudden 3 weeks later pay off something that's just happened. It's being very well laid out and it's a very, very good hour. So if you haven't been watching it, if anybody watching this has not seen it, you need to look it out. It is well worth an hour of your time. Yeah, the show is put together so well. You were mentioning the video packages. Those have been really, really top-notch and telling the stories. The Aoife Valkyrie video package was really cool visuals. It's just very tight, well-produced show. Yeah. And, they pack a lot. And I'll tell you what, Nigel McGuinness and Andy, they're a great team, great commentary team. They really are. I have to say, I've always liked Nigel on commentary, but he brings a lot to the show. And Andy Shepherd's quite underrated too, but Nigel really does bring a lot to it. Yeah, it's funny. Andy Shepherd starts as a ring announcer, and when they went into the COVID era, and he was hosting all those like little NXT UK 1 hour specials of tell me your favorite match type of thing. Yeah. He kind of, I think, endeared himself to the audience, and now he's a commentator. So, and he does a great job. They really do a good job telling the story each week. Yeah. All right, Gary. Well, we'll bid you adieu. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. And, I'll see you soon. Yes. Catch you next week. We'll bring back in the guys. John Smith back from his groceries, and let me take off that background there.
I wasn't talking bad Jordan Devlin. It was more of a before when I said that Escobar is doing more than Jordan Devlin ever could. It was more. It wasn't a Gary's like yeah. It was more about like what he's doing with the title and what his character is doing, not what he could do in the ring. Of course, Devlin's awesome in the ring. I wasn't trying to discredit him there, but I just don't want Gary Mehaffy to come over to the States and beat me up. Yeah, no, he told me on the side he hates you now. I don't know. I know. I mean, here's the thing. You've got Jordan Devlin, who is fantastic in that weight class. And then you've got Santos Escobar, who is doing exactly what he claims to be doing. It's representing a whole tradition of lucha libre. And I don't think that we as wrestling fans are getting a disservice at all by having these two guys represent that weight class. Down the road, we're going to get something great from those two. Absolutely. I always say, I feel like if Jinder Mahal had Escobar's, persona and just way of being in the ring, I think he would still be champion once in a while now. The cruiserweight champion or no world champion. I'm saying Jinder Mahal.
I know. I don't think he fits the cruiserweight weight class, but anyway, I digress. But we do need to talk about world champions, and we're going to move over to SmackDown now and talk through that. Roman Reigns kicked off the show blasting Adam Pearce for what happened with Kevin Owens getting a match last week. He almost attacked Adam Pearce, but he backed off when Paul Heyman kind of calmed him down a bit. We have a gauntlet match for SmackDown. It's kind of the key attraction of SmackDown. And Heyman pulled some strings to get Mr. Pearce added to the match. And John DeConnie, break it down for us. We had some top names in this gauntlet match.
Yeah, absolutely. We started off with a match between Rey Mysterio and Sami Zayn. Unfortunately, I now foresee this could have been a great spot. You know, he's very upset about losing the Intercontinental title, but this could have been his road to a Universal title shot. But he had his filming with him because he's filming the conspiracy because he's still upset about that Intercontinental title loss. And unfortunately, he distracted himself all the way down to the ring because he wouldn't shut up. And this allowed Ray to hit an almost immediate 619 and frog splash for about a 30-second win and knock him out really before he could even get his Che Guevara hat off. So then Shinsuke Nakamura would be next up for Ray. And they had a nice but if short match where Shinsuke would eventually get Ray to tap to an armbar submission. And then Shinsuke was about to get on a roll, but not before Corbin, who was next up, came in and decided to attack a downed Ray. And we went to commercial, and by the time we came back, it was into the Shin and Corbin match. Shin whipped Corbin into the corner. Corbin will slide out, slide back in routine. Unfortunately, he slid back in to knee to face. Kinshasa for the win. Next up for Nakamura would be Daniel Bryan. Here's a dream match for you that unfortunately didn't, time we all would have loved to see it get. But Bryan got a little bit of a roll, hit two of his corner-to-corner running drop kicks, but went to the well one too many times, and in the middle of the third one, caught the Kinshasa, and Shinsuke got the win there. So now the music hits, and the head of the table appears on the top of the ramp. He accompanies his boy Postman Pierce down to the ring. Roman and Jey Uso slide in and proceed to beat the holy hell out of Shinsuke Nakamura. And then Roman slides back out to convince a hesitant Pierce that he's getting in this match. Slides him in just in time to meet a super kick, which knocks Pierce out almost immediately. And then he is dragged on top of Nakamura for the win. So I guess Roman's going to really, even though he seemed to pardon him, he's going to get his revenge at the Royal Rumble, where Adam Pearce will face Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship.
Former NWA champion Adam Pearce. Let's give the man his credit where
3-time, I believe.
3-time, okay.
100%, yes.
Well, I'll put you on the spot. We have a whole Royal Rumble special coming up, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Who do you got, Pearce or Roman Reigns?
Ooh, this one's going to be rough. I think the head of the table finds a way to squeak.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I think that's going to happen. And in recent memory, John Smith, our predictions have all kind of been one and the same. Are you going to go against the grain here? Is Adam Pearce going to be Universal Champion?
No, I can't see them doing this even from any sort of storyline booking perspective. Nobody cares enough about Adam Pearce to care that he was, given the championship. It's not like when Vince won it, or even when David Arquette won it in WCW. At least he was relevant in some sort of way in pop culture.
I mean, the one thing that I'll say after watching this is that it feels like after watching that long gauntlet match, I wanted Shinsuke Nakamura to wrestle Roman Reigns, and hopefully that's a setup that we're going to get at some point down the road. Because getting wins over Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan as the two top baby faces on SmackDown, along with King Corbin, which is probably the number 3 heel on SmackDown, that's no small feat for Shinsuke to do in one night when he only won 2 matches in 2020.
Yeah, Nakamura's been really getting the short end of the stick for a long time now, and I guess he's paid his dues.
Yeah, and he may get some revenge because next week he faces main event Uso on SmackDown this coming week. So, guys, John DeConnie, I'll go with you since you laid out the gauntlet match for us. The next opponent in front of Shinsuke Nakamura is Jey Uso. Who do you got?
This is a tough one. I'm not sure if Roman's there. I think maybe he finds a way to help Jey to win, but I'm going to go with this being straight up one-on-one, and Shin gets a little modicum of revenge by taking out main event Jey.
Yeah, John Smith?
This is a coin flip to me because, either way, it's going to be, Shinsuke's coming after Roman. He's going to try to win the Royal Rumble. I think that's what's coming out of this match. I'll go with Jey also, or with Jey instead of Shinsuke, just because of interference, I think.
I might have to have you play that back for me. Did you say you think Shinsuke Nakamura could win the Royal Rumble?
No. Okay. I said that's what's coming out of this match is Shinsuke saying, I'm chasing after Roman now, and the only way I could do it is by entering the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to win it. He'll make the top 4, the last 4, but he's already won it recently, and there's no way they're giving him a second one already.
Well, that's a great point because the one thing that makes a good Royal Rumble is when you don't necessarily know who's going to win. And if you build up multiple people, like we were talking about the storyline with Daniel Bryan never having won the Royal Rumble, now you have Shinsuke Nakamura who's got a vendetta. You have multiple people that you can put your money down on. It makes for a more compelling Royal Rumble. So all goodness there. Changing subjects a bit, Sonya Deville apparently is going to be Adam Pearce's helper, and it's a good thing. Time couldn't have been any better because he's going to need some help as he's training for a Universal title match now. So also on SmackDown, we have 2 title matches, and I want to start with the Intercontinental title match. Big E and Apollo Crews. John Smith, take it away.
You mean the 2 Intercontinental matches? Some might say.
Some might say,
but not officially on minutestobelltime.com.
That's correct. We considered that one match a continuation. The match had to be restarted.
Absolutely. Does the clock stop from the time the bell rang to the next bell, or do you keep the clock rolling?
minutestobelltime.com stopped the clock.
I see. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. So Big E and Apollo Crews, they had a nice, few minute match, and then they end up with a suplex double pin combination type thing, and they both get pinned at the same time. Referee calls it a draw. Apollo then challenges Big E. Oh, this is how you want it to end, which we've been seeing a lot lately from like the Hurt Business a couple weeks ago, yada yada. So he slaps Big E across the face, and Big E's like, oh, you want more of this? And, a couple minutes later, hits him with the big ending and retains his title. But this probably isn't the last time you see this match. I think it might happen again at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it does feel like there's unfinished business there. I didn't watch Talking Smack, but I understand that Paul Heyman gave Mr. Crews a talking to and let him know what he did wrong. But maybe the other big news coming out of SmackDown is we've got new tag team champions, John Smith.
Finally. Street Profits had those titles since March. So 10 months. It defended them probably 12 times in 10 months.
Yep.
And, they were more of a sideshow than anything for the past year, which is fine. But it was like they were holding those titles hostage. I want to see tag teams gunning for those titles, and it's not like we have too many tag teams around. But now with the addition of Rude and Ziggler, which nothing was going on with their singles careers, so why not go ahead and team up? Because it's two awesome upper mid card guys that can go 20 minutes if they have to, and they could put on an awesome match, and they did with the Street Profits, and they totally deserve it. I'm so happy that this happened.
Are they doing for Pink the same that Bret Hart did, or is this
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so new tag champs, like you mentioned. The Street Profits had those belts since March. Not actually those belts. They did a trade, if everybody remembers, after the whatever draft thing that WWE does. I did want to mention also, since we talked about what counts as a match and what doesn't count as a match, that gauntlet match, to me, on minutestobelltime.com, that's a match, not a series of matches. Even though there was bell ringing in the middle, in history, there's not. And we call it a gauntlet match. So Adam Pearce gets a W. Everybody else gets an L. Sorry, Shinsuke Nakamura. You're starting out 0-1, not 3-1.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I have boundaries, for minutes to bell time. So, all right, let's roll into last night's Monday Night Raw. So, John DeConnie, the show opened up with Triple H and Randy Orton. They were arguing in the ring, and that's how the show ended. Break it down for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so Triple H starts the show. Randy interrupts him almost immediately and wants to just be handed the WWE Championship. Triple H says, you want the championship? Win the Rumble. And Randy said, well, if that's the way you're going to be about it, maybe I want to fight with you. Triple H says, no, it's not my job here anymore. I don't do much of that anymore. And then Randy makes the inevitable, your balls are in Steph's purse jab, and Triple H punches him in the face, which Randy takes as an acceptance for their match, which would bookend the show in the main event spot. So we had Randy and Triple H in a match that I was calling One More Time for no good reason. And Triple H, not too far into the match, goes for his signature sledgehammer and rolls himself back into the ring, standing in the corner, setting up for the big sledgehammer smash. And we get the inkling that the Fiend is about. Half the lights go out, half the screens go out. And then all of a sudden, magic happens, and the sledgehammer is set on fire. And then we get the full lights out. Now we know the Fiend is somewhere around, or someone very close to the Fiend. When the lights come back up, Triple H is gone, and Alexa is behind Randy Orton. And she does her best Street Fighter impersonation and throws a fireball at him. And the show ends with Randy gasping for air and, kind of wincing and mumbling in pain as he's been blinded. So.
Well, in the wake of WWE announcing that super spectacle show for India, it makes sense that they would invoke the Indian character from Street Fighter at the end of Monday Night Raw.
Dalsim.
Yeah.
Yoga fire.
That's right. Yoga uppercut. So that, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if your balls are as weighty as Triple H's, wouldn't you want Stephanie to carry them for you?
Yeah, it's got to lighten the load. It's a 4-man back. Think of all the bumps he's taken. Back doesn't need that extra weight.
Correct. Okay. Like I said, let's not spend any time on that topic. But
there might be something sharp in her purse.
There you go.
A bobby pin or something.
On the subject of ballsy things to do, Lacey Evans defeated Charlotte Flair with outside interference from Ric Flair. Ric Flair grabbing the leg of Charlotte as she goes to suplex Lacey into the ring, and then they leave for the hotel. So I don't know. I guess Rick is back to his old tricks. But then, John Smith, we get into the Jackson Riker, Jeff Hardy, Elias portion of the proceedings.
Yeah, no, I mean the first part of it when it was Riker versus Hardy didn't last too long because Elias interfered and Riker got the quick win in under a minute.
47.
But it was all just to set up Jeff Hardy challenging Elias, saying that he's afraid, and the normal sports entertainment that we get. And so Elias reluctantly agrees. They have themselves a nice few minutes of a match, and then Hardy wins. And then Elias, for some reason, is upset that Riker didn't interfere, even though he told Riker not to interfere.
Well, I mean, if Jackson Riker had gone through the Alpha Academy with Chad Gable, he would have known that he was double speak there. So
This is true.
Don't do what I say, do what I mean.
That's right. And John DeConnie, that wasn't the only double shot we had in the evening. As the very next segment, Sheamus and Keith Lee, they fought The Miz and John Morrison. They would get the win, but that wasn't all for the night.
It would not end there. Yes, that match started off some interesting stuff. You had Lee and Sheamus mostly dominating the match. And early on, we had Keith Lee charge into the corner to deliver a shoulder block to John Morrison, and we had the turnbuckle explode. And we went to a commercial break, came back, the ropes were all fixed, and Lee continued to destroy Miz and Morrison almost single-handedly. And then Sheamus would make the blind tag, come in, brogue kick Morrison's head off, and they would get the win. And as we went to commercial again, Keith Lee seemed loose. He was giggling, and they were, not, they weren't embracing or anything, but, it seemed like he was like, okay, you did me a little dirty there, but we got the win anyway. Come back out of the commercial, they're going at it. So we got ourselves another match. This one, they beat each other inside and outside of it. It got rather physical with these two big hosses, as you would assume it would. And at one point, Sheamus went for an armbar. Lee powered it into a short power bomb, and then he would follow it up with his signature spirit bomb for the win. And then afterwards, you thought maybe they were going to go at it again, and Sheamus gives him a big hug. So Broly and Fireface, they're back on the same page.
I got two things in this. First and foremost, Sheamus must be bipolar, because when we left for commercial, he was happy and smiles, and when we came back, full Fireface, like Keith Lee had insulted his mother and his wife in the same breath or something. The second thing, with a production note, I thought it was really cool when they came back from commercial after the John Morrison had been knocked into the turnbuckle, that they had the guy there still working on putting the turnbuckle back. I thought that was kind of fun to see. But John Smith, do you think that turnbuckle spot was actually part of the show, or was that just kind of something fun, a happy accident, as you will?
Yeah, I think it was a happy and lucky accident, because, what if there was two big men trying to superplex off of that turnbuckle and it was loose? You could have had something devastating happen. I'm assuming that it wasn't attached correctly. Just the way that they reacted, it did not look that was genuine reactions, like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. So, of all the ways for it to come undone, that was the most entertaining and I guess the safest way it could have happened. But somebody's got to answer for why that happened in the first place. Not to us, but to Vince McMahon. I mean, I'm not one of those, internet guys, but
but just by the sheer nature of you being on an internet show makes you one of those internet guys. But I understand your point. Keith Lee's facial was amazing in the aftermath of that moment. And then, the thing I thought about is that thing comes flying off the corner and down onto John Morrison. If that turnbuckle had just turned itself over and landed on his head, that could have been bad news, because those things, they're not plastic. Those are steel. So
yeah.
The last match on Raw, I'm going to bring it up now just because of the way this Sheamus sort of line tag ending to the tag match with Miz and Morrison. We had the same thing happen in the last match. It was Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler facing Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Shayna tagged herself in, put on the Kirifuda clutch. We didn't get Shayna versus Nia afterwards, but we did get the same kind of dirty looks at each other. So expect that to be something that pays off in the Royal Rumble or in next week on Raw or something like that. We're not done with that situation. Also on Raw, we had T-Bar. Excuse the lack of creativity for coming up with a weird name for a member of Retribution, but he used the Eyes Wide Shut to defeat Xavier Woods. And then John Smith, the final double shot. This is our triple double shot on Raw. Bobby Lashley, Matt Riddle, MVP. Series of matches towards the end of the show.
Yeah, I mean, why do the same thing 3 times in one show? But for some reason, I didn't mind it. I think each time it furthered the stories, and I liked all the matches that came out of it. I mean, the Lashley versus Riddle match was great because I feel like Lashley still needs to just dominate people, and he made Riddle tap out, and he held on to it this time to make sure that the bell rang before he let go. So then you get Riddle doing what his partner Jeff Hardy in the Hardy Bros, or the Very Hard Bros, or whatever you want to call them. you get him doing the same thing, challenging MVP now, but MVP's wearing a suit. So what's he think is going to happen? Bobby Lashley interferes in that match with a spear, and he gets beat up and laid out in the middle of the ring, the way the Hurt Business should be doing. I mean, last week they had a kind of a down week, and they came right back, and they're back on top.
I don't remember if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but in one of the last 2 Raws, Riddle and MVP had a match that lasted about 45 seconds with the floating bro for the win for Matt Riddle. He wasn't so lucky, although he got the DQ victory. He wasn't so lucky on Raw this week.
Right.
But one other match on Raw, a total of 9 matches. AJ Styles got a win over Drew Gulak. Gulak had wanted to get into the Royal Rumble, couldn't understand why he couldn't just declare himself for the match. AJ said, well, I'm a multiple-time champion. So Pierce puts them in a match. Drew, if you can get a W here, you can be in the Royal Rumble. I'll note that these guys were 1-1 in 2020. Last summer, they had a short feud or just a couple of matches. Drew got a win over AJ Styles. AJ Styles got a win over Drew. This was the payoff that we've been waiting all winter and fall for. But AJ Styles got the win here, denying Drew Gulak entry into the Royal Rumble. So best of luck, Drew, with your 24/7 champion pursuits. That puts a period on Raw. Guys, before we move out of WWE space, any other final thoughts on any of the Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK stuff from the past week?
I think
Not so much.
Well, I think we did WWE justice here, and now we're going to turn our attention to New Year's Smash. And like we did before, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring up our overall standings from Pro Wrestling Pick'em, the Essential Wrestling Podcast pool. Much to my dismay, Karl has taken a lead over me in second place. Now I've dropped down to third. John DeConnie still strong at the top. He went 16-2 last week. Al went 18-0. I also went 16-2. John Smith 14-4 is a fine record. All good. We have everybody got Hennings last week. Karl, of course, he implored that I at least put this graphic up. Of all the graphics, he wanted to make sure that this one, where he's clearly showing having a Genesis perfect prediction, New Year's Evil perfect, and New Year's Smash. There you go. He has 6 Hennings. At the end of the show.
He comes off as a real nice guy, but he's a real D-hole sometimes.
Sometimes. I wouldn't want to face them in fantasy football.
Oh, don't bring that up.
he was kind enough to give us words of encouragement before the show today. So, thank you, sir. Okay, well, we're talking about New Year's Smash now. So here are their AEW standings. We are Karl is leading that race as well. He has 96 points. Tyler Adelle's in second with 73. John Smith, third place, 67, but I'm tied with you. You just have a better win percentage. And John DeConi, sorry to say, you're way in the back, but only by 2 points. So let's be fair to each other. Here's the scoring: 5 points for an AEW title match, 3 points for all other title matches, 1 point for non-title matches. Interpromotional matches get 2 points, and a perfect pay-per-view will get 5 points. Before we start talking about our predictions for New Year's Smash this week, we do have to talk about the excellent show that we had last week. And to start off, we're going to talk about the AEW World Title match, Kenny Omega, Rey Fenix. It was a classic, John DeConi.
Yeah, it certainly was. This one gets all the stars. Just to go through, I mean, this was one of those slightly anticlimactic matches because we were all pretty sure Kenny Omega was not going to lose his title. But let's just go through a little bit of Rey Fenix's highlights. He hit a tope where he flew between the top and middle rope, managed to turn it into a tumbling senton, sending Omega into the guardrail. He hit a middle turnbuckle moonsault into a snap German suplex that got him a 2 count. He took a V-trigger right in the mush, nipped up, and delivered a super kick. He countered the first attempt at a one-winged angel into a reverse Frankensteiner. He hit a slingshot diving cutter from outside in for a 2 count. A knee lift into a thunder driver for 2. And he even managed to tip his cap to Eddie Guerrero doing the shimmy before a frog splash that unfortunately he caught Kenny's knees on. And that would eventually lead to a Tiger Driver 98, V-trigger, one-winged angel, and a 3 count. And a retain by Kenny Omega. But that was not the end of the match, or not the end of the festivities, at least. Callis would come in afterwards on the mic, go to the Tron where we saw backstage Kingston, Butcher, and the Blade attacking Pac and Penta, letting Fenix know he was not getting any help tonight. And then he urged Omega to finish Fenix off. This led to Moxley coming out with the barbed wire bat and the Good Brothers making the save for Omega. Moxley would get a magic killer. Random folks started jumping trying to jump the ringside barriers and come in to help out. The Good Brothers and Omega pretty much held the ring. This would lead to the Young Bucks coming out and a moment of tension, but eventually a Bullet Club reunion that was entirely too sweet.
There was a little bit of a follow-up to that on Being the Elite, the Young Bucks' YouTube show yesterday, where the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were taking photos together, and then there was a segment with just the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks talking, backstage about, oh, well, you probably saw my face. I wasn't really on board, but, we eventually got on the same page there. So I think that's a to-be continued story for sure. The rumors, the news, everybody you talk to says that the Good Brothers were highly recruited by AEW at the launch, but they ended up re-signing with WWE. So that was how things were supposed to start. Young Bucks, Good Brothers, big feud. Didn't get there, but yeah, circumstances would have it. We have an Impact and an AEW partnership that could produce that match in the future. So to be continued. Continuing with the Young Bucks, and they had the opening contest with tagging with SCU. They got a victory over TH2 and the Acclaimed after a best moonsault ever into the Meltzer driver. SCU would then go on to say, we've got your backs unless we're in the ring together in a title match situation. So all good there. Also, another title match on the show was Shida defeating Abaddon to retain her women's championship. And John Smith, one of the sleeper matches, I think, leading up to the show was Wardlow and Jake Hager.
Yeah, we got ourselves some heel-on-heel action. You know how much I love that. I mean, what can you say about this? I mean, the two Hosses going against each other, two big guys, but it was really one big guy and one much bigger guy. And Wardlow played that powerhouse role to a T in the match, made Hager finally resort to going for submissions rather than trying to just power up with them and go collar and elbow tie-ups and all that stuff. That wasn't working for him. Wardlow ended up hitting a swanton bomb at one point, which is pretty cool to see a big guy like him do. I'd like to see him keep his feet on the mat, though, especially with his the rest of his repertoire. He doesn't need to be jumping off the top rope at that size. But that's a very minor negative in an all positive match, in my opinion. I was never a Jack Swagger fan back in the WWE days, and I could take or leave him here in AEW, but I really liked this match and the whole pep talk that MJF gave him after the match. It almost made it seem like they were coming together as a group a little bit.
I appreciated the Jake Hager, listening to MJF, but then saying, thanks, you're all right, now drag it. Because it kind of felt right on character for that character that Hager is portraying right now. It's so Travis said on the Daily Wrestling News Show this morning he thinks MJF's going to take over that group. I think we've all speculated about that at one point or another. Jericho, maybe he's going to be a full-time commentator. I don't know. But I think for sure MJF has got his roots planted in that group now. Matt Hardy signed Private Party to a deal, some sort of contract. They brought the gin. Snoop brought the juice. I guess Matt Hardy's going to get some portion of Private Party's payroll. But in return, Matt Hardy's supposed to be making Private Party champions. So we'll see how that plays out. And John DeConnie, Cody Rhodes had a match on this card in an effort to promote Go Big Show.
Wait, this wasn't a John Smith match? All right, I'll take this one. So and Cody got his theatrical entrance. There we go.
I'm out.
Cody got his over-the-top entrance complete with Snoop Dogg in his corner, and Snoop was even smart enough to make sure he had Anderson's Waffle House menu, just in case they needed to go to the old play sheet. Mm-hmm. And again, you expect, Matt Sydal did not have the greatest of entries into AEW, but putting that initial move aside, you expect nothing but good stuff out of him. And these two had a really fun and entertaining match, but go figure, it ends with a crossroads for the win. But once again, this is not where this segment ended, as some incidental contact with Luther and Serpentico earlier in the match when they were around ringside led to Luther and Serpentico attacking Cody. Sydal coming back to kind of help make the save, and it would all end up with, I guess, perhaps a tip of the cap to earlier in the evening when Christopher Daniels did the best moonsault ever. We had Snoop Dogg going to turnbuckle and hitting what I've come to call the slowest splash ever.
So now
I think the old Big Show got their money's worth.
So let me ask you two guys to give me who did it better, Matt Sydal's debut in AEW or Snoop Dogg's debut in AEW? Who had the better top rope maneuver?
Well, I'm going to go with Snoop Dogg. I'm going with Snoop Dogg because
just by a hair.
Yeah, well, Snoop, because when you're that high, the effects of gravity don't have that much of an effect on you. So that's why he floated so slowly down onto the guy. Sydal was just, wreck yourself and leave.
Yeah. He misread Roman's, at the time, new merchandise.
Yes.
So, all right. So we've already gone through the New Year's Smash standings and the perfect pay-per-views and the AEW standings and all that stuff. Now let's get down to picking our matches for night 2. Points are on the line here, guys. So as I bring up the Elite in action, John Smith, I will start with you. Who do you have in the Elite match?
Oh, I've got In Action winning this one. Not.
Yeah.
Pretty much, it writes itself. You know, they're going to dominate and win.
John DeConnie, any thoughts on who they might face?
You know, I was kind of racking my head to think of who that could be. I wouldn't mind it being the Acclaimed, and so throw somebody else in there just to see the Acclaimed get another beating for their very talented raps that they are focusing on the Young Bucks. So not sure, but that's just a out of nowhere guess.
Yeah. But you are in the camp of the Elite on this match?
Most definitely.
Yeah. And then, of course, my graphic had the Young Bucks on there. There is some talk about Nick Jackson being injured from his match with SCU and the other guys in the earlier part of New Year's Smash. So may potentially get a sub out on Nick Jackson or the Bucks entirely. So we'll see what happens there. But another tag match on the card is going to be FTR facing the team of Jurassic Express. And Marco Stunt, although not featured in this picture, Marco Stunt is subbing in for Luchasaurus in this after Dash and Dawson, Dax and Cash, whatever their names are, kind of goaded him into the match. So, John DeConnie, who do you have?
I'm gonna go with FTR not only winning here, but perhaps taking some liberties with the little man, and that'll lead to what I think we all assume is eventually coming, where Luchasaurus rejoins Jungle Boy, and we get to run this one back.
John Smith, what do you think about that?
Yeah, their names are Cash and Cawson, the Crevival, actually.
Excuse me.
And I got them winning easily. Maybe they'll have a nice 12-minute match, but I don't think they need to cheat to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to pick FTR as well. As much as I'd like to see little Marco have a good match, I think the better combination would be Marco and Luchasaurus versus FTR, because then Luchasaurus can pick Marco up and throw him at FTR the whole match. I don't think we'll see that out of Jungle Boy. So, moving right along, I don't have a graphic for Chuck Taylor versus Miro, but that's a match that's going to be happening. And if Chuck Taylor loses, he will be Miro's young boy until the wedding. And John Smith, I explained to you what a young boy was last week on the Daily Wrestling News Show. Who do you have in the Chuck Taylor and Miro match?
This says Miro written all over it. This is going to be a long-term storyline. So, yeah, you got to go with Miro.
John DeConnie?
Yeah, if they even think about robbing me of the humor of seeing Miro treat Chuck as his young boy, I'll never forgive them. So give me Miro.
And do you have any thoughts about what task Chuck Taylor will get first?
Oof. Oh, God only knows. Maybe get some more hair dye for Miro. I think the blonde, he's losing some of the blonde. So
fair enough. I also don't have a graphic for the NWA Women's Championship match, but we have Serena Deeb defending against Tay Conti. John DeConnie, going back to you, what do you think about this match? Does Tay Conti have a chance at winning the World Women's Championship?
Oh, that would really be exciting, but I think she's too. She's just coming along in her development. She's making great strides. I really enjoy watching her. She will have the Dark Order backing her up, but I think Serena Deeb is just too good, and she will retain.
John Smith?
I'm actually going to go the other way with this one because the Dark Order is on her side. Maybe she's not going to ask for the help, but I think she'll get it, and I think she'll win it, and maybe give it right back a couple weeks later, because NWA isn't going to want their title to be in AEW for too long on somebody that's not contracted with them. But I think that it would be interesting, especially with the the couple of backstage vignettes that I've seen from the ladies. I think this is the way they should go. So I think that's what they're going to do.
Now, interestingly enough, Serena Deeb is not under contract with NWA. She's under contract with AEW. I believe when this is all said and done, that title goes back to Thunder Rosa. But for now, yeah, I can see your point that maybe with the Dark Order support, Tay Conti could get the win here. The belt could bounce around a little bit, but I'm going to pick Serena Deeb on this. I think she's going to hold on to that title. But John Smith, you get first dibs on picking Pac versus Eddie Kingston, and this is not a match that's easy to call, I don't think.
That's really hard. I just love that this match is happening more than anything. I'm going to go with I got to go with Pac, whatever. Pac-Man.
Are we going to see a lot of interference from Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see everybody, my best friend and the Ice Cream Man, and we'll get it all.
John DeConnie.
Yeah, I think this one could have a lot of mayhem at ringside, and like John Smith said, this is really a coin flip, but I think Eddie Kingston is so bulletproof because he's so darn good on the mic, and he spends half of his time as more of a manager than an in-ring performer. So I think Pac takes this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take Pac also for maybe a different reason. I think that Pac is getting ready for Omega, and so I think that they're going to give Pac the win. Eddie Kingston kind of just had his pair of title matches, so I think continue to build Pac and get ready for that big Pac and Omega match, which we know will steal whatever show it's on. So, okay, we have a couple of other things on the show. We have Cody Rhodes, who will be in Britt Baker's waiting room. As you can see, he's featured here with his black hair because I don't have a picture of him with his natural color. And then
can you put up a picture of him unemployed next time, please?
I can always pull this one up. Additionally, we have the Inner Circle making their New Year's resolutions, and I'll just kind of go open forum here, guys. Does anybody have any thoughts on what they might have in store for us this year? What their goals are?
I'm thinking MJF is going to say world championship.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to talk about bringing a lot of gold into the fold. I'd love to see Santana and Ortiz legitimately get into the unbelievable tag team hunt that exists here in AEW. And someone like Sami would look great chasing that TNT title. So I think they're going to have a lot of inspirations that involve gold and platinum.
Does the Undisputed Era make a golden prophecy?
I believe that is exactly where I was going, sir. Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, we have one more match for New Year's Smash, and it is a championship match. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting for a long time to see Darby Allin defend that championship, and his first opponent outweighs him by 100 pounds, John Smith.
If he didn't have the FTW championship on him already, I would like his chances more in here. But I think Darby Allin comes away with the belt one way or another, whether it's a DQ victory or whatever. But I'm going with Darby Allin.
Yeah, John DeConnie, is there a possibility that Darby Allin loses the championship in his first defense?
I really don't see that. The only thing that worries me is with points on the line, there could wind up being a DQ where, technically Cage wins because Sting had to get involved and he hit Cage with a bat or something like that. But I think this all leads to some kind of big six-man tag or something involving maybe even Taz himself getting back in the ring, as we saw him lay hands a couple of weeks ago. It gives Sting a chance to get in the ring without having to do any of the heavy lifting. But I think in the end, no matter what, I think Darby leaves with his title intact.
Yeah, I think so too. I got Darby winning the match. But to your point, I'm hoping we're leading to a big cinematic Sting North of the Wall Game of Thrones style match with Taz. At Revolution maybe. So
Winter's Coming Part 2.
That's right. So while Al is absent from us today, he did mail in his predictions, and I have them here. You can see that looks like he's put on a little bit of muscle for these predictions, but he has picked Darby Allin, The Elite, Pac, FTR, Serena Deeb, and Miro. It appears that he played it safe. Let's just call it what it is. Played it safe. All right. That covers New Year's Smash. I do have this graphic here that runs down the entirety of the night. So there you have it. We are going to be turning things over to the world of Impact Wrestling now. We have 3 shows to talk about. 1, recap, the go-home show for Hard to Kill, and Hard to Kill itself. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with Genesis. We'll start with the main event. It was Willie Mack versus Moose. John Smith.
Oh wow, what a match that was! I mean, this was old school ECW right here. I've always seen guys try to do it. Throw out the thumbtacks. Here's the barbed wire bat. There's this, there's that, but they're always, it never has that ECW feel, and this felt like ECW the whole time. I don't know. Maybe it's just because Willie Mack is just so crazy. I don't know. But, the spot where where Moose threw Willie Mack off the top rope, off the apron, through the table, and Mack's head hit the entrance ramp, that was not safe. That was unsafe.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And, all the different crazy things they did in the match, blood, what have you, and then all of a sudden, who comes out is Rich Swann to stop Moose from ending Willie Mack's career by giving him an opportunity at the world title that Moose has wanted for so long. So Moose I was sitting next to Al when this happened. I could not believe my eyes. Al was jumping up and down in joy that he picked Willie Mack to win an I Quit match against Moose, and somehow it happened. I couldn't believe that that Moose quit because of that. But I mean, something had to happen like that, I guess, between these two guys. I just thought it was going to go on the other side.
I think we all need to raise our glasses to Moose for having such good manners. He at least said thank you. I quit. Right?
Cheers to that.
Also, on the undercard of that show, we had Jordan Grace getting a win over Jazz. It was a roll-up, just a basic win. Feel-good moment, I guess, because Jazz didn't take the Jordan Grace's finisher. She was able to stand right up and get a hug before we continued on with the proceedings of the evening. But John DeConnie, the thing that was sort of this whole show was built around was the Super X Cup. And you have done a great job of breaking down the gauntlet match earlier in the night. So we thought, let's throw another challenge at you. Why don't you break down a tournament for us now?
There you go. All right. Well, the show kicked off with Ace Austin and Suicide. And, not too much going on. Ace Austin won with the fold, moved on, as I believe all of us had foreseen. Suicide, of course, never really puts on a bad match either, regardless of who's under there. But Austin moves into round 2. The second match of the evening were the two unknowns, at least to most of us. Was Blake Christian and Casey Navarro. They got some FaceTime ahead of time to talk about themselves, their gimmick, etc. In the end, it was Blake Christian defeating Casey Navarro with a twisting top turnbuckle splash. Moving on to round 2. In the third preliminary round match, we had Cousin Jake and Daivari. They, of course, got some promo time ahead as well. Cousin Jake used a swinging side slam to get the 1-2-3 on Daivari and put himself through the second round. And in that final opening round match, we have Crazy Steve against another of the relatively unknowns, at least to mere mortals like myself, Mr. Trey Lamar. And Crazy Steve won with his, his jumping DDT from the second turnbuckle, much like we saw him win the four-way match on the previous Impact. Moving into the second round, we had Ace Austin defeating Cousin Jake once again with the fold. We had a little bit of a standoff between Cousin Jake and Madman Fulton. Perhaps that's something we'll revisit down the line after Cousin Jake finishes dealing with his cousin Cody. And in the second X Cup, the second round match, we had Blake Christian pulling seemingly the upset by taking out Crazy Steve with a 450 splash, while Crazy Steve was draped across the top rope trying to make his way back in. Another impressive move, Christian making definitely putting his best foot forward, making a little bit of a name for himself here. And then we got to the finals, Ace Austin versus Blake Christian. And these two put on a heck of a match. Wasn't incredibly long, but you got to see more of Christian. You got to see him really, show what he can do. But in the end, the inevitable, Ace Austin wins with the hold and raises the Super X Cup.
Yeah, and he joins the list of Super X Cup tournament winners, along with Desmond Xavier, Samoa Joe, and Chris Sabin. So he's in good company. Look at that, Chris Sabin, 2003. 14 years ago, he was a Super X Cup winner, and this weekend he'll be main eventing Hard to Kill. So good on you, Chris Sabin. And, of course, Ace Austin for winning the tournament we just spoke about. Okay, so like I mentioned, we have Impact this week. We have a 4-match show on Access that's going to be kicking off here in about 35 minutes. So let's hurry up and get our picks in for that before it's too late. First and foremost, we have Taya Valkyrie going against Kimber Lee. John Smith, who do you like in that match? No points on the line here.
I like Valkyrie to win this one.
Yeah, it's probably the setup for her title match this weekend. John DeConnie, any tomfoolery here where Kimber Lee gets the win?
I wouldn't think so. I'm going to go with Taya as well.
Okay. Outdated graphic a bit nowadays, but we do have Cody Diener facing Tommy Dreamer on tonight's Impact. John DeConnie, we'll start with you this time.
Give me a new look Cody Diener. Tommy, almost never wins a match, and you've got that new click with Diener, Doring, and EY. So let's keep them rolling now.
John Smith.
Yeah, same here.
Just a sidebar. I was doing some research on Cody Diener. Apparently, he's like a motivational speaker for children as well. So look past the hard exterior that he now has with Eric Young and Joe Doring. There's a really nice guy underneath all that. But let's not dwell on that. Let's talk about Tennille Dashwood and Rosemary. John Smith, we'll start with you.
I got Tennille Dashwood winning simply because of Caleb with a K.
John DeConnie will Taya Valkyrie come to the assistance of Rosemary?
I wouldn't think so in this one. I'm assuming, that last week we had Tennille trying to convince Rosemary that Taya is going to drop her. So this would, I guess, help her make that point if Taya does show up to help her out. I'm assuming that's going. Not that I know why Tennille feels she needs a tag team partner now that she's out of the tournament, but I assume that's where we're headed.
Well, I suppose the tournament's over and the championship titles will persist. So I guess Tennille would like to be in that hunt. But Kenny Omega and Don Callis are both going to be in the Impact Zone for tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. So that can't spell good things for Mr. Rich Swann, who has a match with the Machine Gun, which is presumably in the main event. John DeConnie, as the senior Impact correspondent, we'll have you pick tonight's main event first.
Now, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't double check today to see if it had been changed. This is all of their buddies are banned from ringside, if I remember correctly from last week.
That is true. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna say that at the worst, I see Karl Anderson getting frustrated. I don't think they're gonna make the Impact World Champion count the lights heading up to a pay-per-view. So maybe last ditch effort, Karl Anderson decides he can't get the 1, 2, 3 and kicks him in the Jimmy or something and gets DQ'd.
Yeah. John Smith?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way who could help Karl Anderson win this match. That's not one of his buddies, but I can't think of anything, so I got to go with Rich Swann.
No points on the line. I'm going to go with Karl. If worst comes to worst, it sets up a title match, if he wins. So I will go Karl Anderson here, particularly since there's no points on the line. But on the subject of points, we do have Hard to Kill this weekend. I want to bring up our Impact standings. Oh my God, El Carl at the top of another list. Who is this guy? 96 points. He's just edging out our Impact correspondent, John DeConnie. I'm back there with 89 points. John Smith, 72. Tyler Adelle, barely on the map, but he does have a 500 record, so that's pretty good. Our scoring for Hard to Kill will be 5 points for an Impact title match / main event, which is going to be the 6-man tag. 3 points for all other title matches, 1 point for non-title matches, 2 points for interpromotional matches, which we don't have. Well, we do have one. We'll have to discuss with Al Carl how the point system will work on that main event, because I guess it's going to be 10-point match. Perfect pay-per-view gets plus 5 points, which I believe will be plus 10 if that main event is worth 10 points. We start our proceedings here with the reinstated Knockouts Tag Team Championship match. Havoc and Nevaeh versus Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan. It's the finals. We've been waiting all this time. These are the teams that we thought would be there. They're there now. John DeConnie, who do you have?
Okay. With all the talk by Josh Matthews about how much he was behind Hogan and Steelz, I like when one of these tournaments shakes out and something happens that you don't see coming. So I'm gonna go with Havoc and Nevaeh here. I just love watching Havoc work. When she power bombed Jordan Grace in that semifinal match, the physicality of this woman is just fantastic. So I'm gonna say Havoc and Nevaeh. Eventually, we all know Hogan and Steelz will get those belts and maybe have a nice long run. But I think just to give us something we don't expect, give me Havoc and Nevaeh taking the initial title.
John Smith, agree or disagree?
Disagree. Personally, I would go with John DeConnie's opinion over mine in Impact, especially considering my track record compared to his. But Kira and Tasha have been my picks since the beginning of the tournament, and I'm not going to go against them now. And I just want to be right more than anything.
This is, you guys are right. This is probably one of the harder matches to call. Both Nevaeh and Tasha Steelz came into Impact earlier this year about the same time. So there's not like one team is more established than the other. I think I'm going to go with Havoc and Nevaeh for no other reason than John DeConnie has got a good record picking matches. So
don't let that be your guide.
That's a cop out.
Yeah, that's a cop out. In all seriousness, though, I think that they're the bigger team, and I think Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz will be a lot more fun chasing the belts than they will be as champions. So that's my reasoning. We have a 6-man match. It is not the main event. First, we have a 6-man tag match between Eric Young, Cody Diener, and Joe Doring versus the team of Tommy Dreamer, Cousin Jake, and Rhino. That'll probably be one of the earlier matches on the card. John Smith, I'll go with you first. Who do you think takes this match, this 6-man tag?
I got Eric Young's team winning just because they're the hot new thing, and it's not just a mashup of 3 guys, you know.
Fair point. John DeConnie?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Smith said. You know, they've caused a lot of mayhem, but they haven't had, but I believe, one match. So let them get some wins under their belt before somebody tries to give them their comeuppance.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't see a scenario where the other team wins. In fact, I think Dreamer probably added to the match to take the pin. So we have, and it's a shame Karl is not here to talk about this, but the X Division Championship Triple Threat match. Our champion Manik defends against Chris Bay and Rohit Raju. John DeConnie, who do you think comes through with the X Division Championship? Manik wasn't available to have his picture drawn, so we just put up TJP's in the graphic just for sake of them, not being friends, and thought I'd have to add somebody in there.
I mean, those two are like oil and water. I don't know what would make you do that, but anyway. This one is definitely, I had a little hesitation on the Knockouts tag titles, but this is definitely the hardest one on the card for me to pick. I'm gonna go with A. Perhaps we get a revisiting of the way Rohit kind of screwed him over, weaseling his way into the 3-match to eventually take the title. Maybe this is the receipt. He gets a little payback here, but really, any of the 3 ways this goes, I would not be the least bit surprised. Give me Chris Bay.
John Smith, what do you think?
My first thought was Mannix, so it's probably wrong. So I'm gonna go with I'll go with Rohit. I'm going with Rohit.
Rohit had a pretty long title reign. I think it went 4 months or so. That's pretty good. Chris Bay's was kind of on the shorter end, I believe, only one month or so, maybe 2. I'm going to go with Chris Bay in this match. The reason being is I don't think TJP retains. I think they're going to move him on because I don't think they're focusing on him very much. Rohit, I don't think they're ready to dial that back right yet. And Chris Bay, he's getting all the push in the world. And I think Chris Bay versus Ace Austin in the very near future is a match that we are probably going to be seeing. Which, in the context of me just laying that all out, I think I'd really like to see Manik versus Ace Austin too. So, but I'll stick with Chris Bay. Okay. Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan in a barbed wire massacre match next. John Smith, start with you. Barbed wire massacre seems like a pretty violent thing to be getting into. But you called the I Quit. You had the I Quit match earlier. I'll have you pick our barbed wire massacre match first.
I'd love to know what exactly the barbed wire massacre is. I'm assuming maybe like all the ropes are wrapped in barbed wire, and there's various items wrapped in barbed wire, plus spools of like lone barbed wire. Who knows? But this seems like it's gonna be, at least for a while, the end of their feud, and I think the face needs to come out on top. So I'm going with Eddie Edwards.
Okay. John DeConnie?
Yeah, I agree 100% with the last part of what John Smith said, that I believe Eddie Edwards needs to come out on top of this one. It's just driving me nuts trying to figure out how, who comes to Eddie's side and who keeps Ken Shamrock out of this. Maybe Alicia Edwards shows up with a can of mace. I don't know, but give me Eddie Edwards.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pick Sami Callihan. The reason is we have a face champion and we need some heel contenders. So, I know they've had matches before, but I'm going back with Sami Callihan in this match. Okay. We're getting towards the end of Hard to Kill show, but we have probably the Knockouts Championship is one of the final championship that's on the line. And we have Taya Valkyrie, whose contract status is a mystery to everyone, facing Deonna Purrazzo. John DeConnie, starting with you.
All right. I'm just glad to see Taya back in the ring. She's done a whole lot of extracurricular work this year. I can't wait to see these two go at it. I'm going to go with the Jersey Girl. Give me Deonna retaining, I guess, mostly for the fact that we really don't know what Taya's future is. And this would be a heck of a line to add to Deonna's resume.
I totally agree. John Smith?
Yeah, I agree as well. You can't end Deonna's second run as quickly as you ended her first run.
Yeah. Main event time on that show. We have a 6-man tag match between Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. They're facing Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Gun. This is an interpromotional 6-man tag team match. Our AEW World Champion teams with our Impact Tag Team Champions against our Impact World Champion and the former Tag Team Champions. John Smith, I'm going to go straight to you with this. Who do you think wins the interpromotional 6-man tag?
I think this one's the easiest one to pick on the card, and it's the Bullet Club.
John DeConnie?
Absolutely agree. Omega and the Good Brothers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Omega. The thought of Omega crossing a promotion and losing a match is pretty slim in my mind. But so I guess we're universal on that one. Now, earlier we were talking about that X Division Championship match being hard to call, and it was hard to call. But there's another match on this card that I've saved to the end because I think it's very interesting, very fun. We have Ethan Page facing off against a man he looks an awful lot like. That is the Karate Man. So
a Ninja Turtle headband.
It was whatever the Google machine gave me.
It looks like it's actually cropped off of a Ninja Turtle. I love it.
So there you have both of them 0-0 for this year so far. They haven't had a match yet. Let's see. Who wants to go first? Who wants to take a stab at this? I'll leave it up to you guys to decide.
I'll go.
Okay.
I know that regardless of who wins this, I will be entertained. And quite frankly, I would leave it blank on the EWP and sacrifice the point just to make sure I got the entertainment value. But since we're making picks, give me Ethan Page learning a lesson from the Karate Man, but eventually using that lesson to take the victory.
So you pick Ethan Page. Okay. John Smith?
Does this count towards the pool?
It sure does. 1 point.
Then I'm going to go with Karate Man. It's crazy how I needed that information before I made my pick. I think that we're going to get a lot more of this because everybody's going to like it so much. I think Ethan Page is a genius with this stuff, and the Karate Man is going to take it home. It's going to be a cinematic match, of course. So I'm just really looking forward to it. But
Why do you
going
say
with Karl.
that?
Yeah. I'm going to pick the Karate Man in the sense that I think this is going to be Ethan Page, as we've talked about so many times, John DeConnie, losing on his way out of the territory.
Good call on your good call.
So let's give Al his time to share with us his picks and see how much he differed from us. He has also picked the Karate Man. He also picked EY Doring and Cody Diener. Steels and Hogan, so he's with you, John Smith. He's picked Manic to retain. Eddie Edwards, so I guess I'm the only person picking Sami Callihan. Deonna Purrazzo and Bullet Club. I think we all agreed on those. And once again, showing off his physique in this picture is Mr. Al Karl. He is heading back to, I know I said in the beginning of the show that he was working on ice sculptures, but perhaps he's doing that at Swingtown, USA. Okay.
Solid picks, Daddy.
Before we jump into Al's pick for his top WrestleMania moments here, some New Japan, MLW, Ring of Honor notes. New Japan dropped their schedule for basically now through February 10th and 11th this morning. So there's no matches coming up this week. We have sort of a house show on Sunday, but the next big show is going to be January 23rd. It's still kind of a minor show, but there is a title match. We'll talk about all that next week. Ring of Honor, their television show this past week was a best of 2020 show, so nothing really to discuss there. On the MLW side of the house, they've got a show tomorrow starting at 7 on YouTube for nothing. And Lima De La Renta will be the executive producer of that show. She is debuting Mil Muertes. Low Key will be in action. Ross and Marshall Von Erich will be defending the MLW Tag Team Championships against the Los Parks. So that's what's on the docket this week for MLW. Kind of summed up my segment kind of fast this week. I always said I could do it on fast forward, but let's move on to Al Karl's WrestleMania match. Let's see. We are on number 12, and it is Owen Hart versus Triple H from WrestleMania 14. We had Sergeant Slaughter in China on the outside. Sarge put Chyna in the cuffs to try to prevent her from getting involved. Didn't work. Chyna did eventually get involved with a low blow to Owen Hart to give Triple H the pinfall victory. We actually watched this match right before we went on the air tonight. John DeConnie, John Smith, any thoughts on this WrestleMania 14 match? I think it might have been the first time you guys have seen it.
Yeah, it was the first time I've seen it, only because that's a time period of my life where I wasn't watching wrestling for about a year and a half. I watched 13, I watched 15, but I didn't see 14. So I was always a big Owen Hart fan, and I know I say Andre the Giant's my favorite of all time, but I didn't really live through much of his career. Triple H has been my actual favorite ever since he was the Connecticut Blue Bloods. So seeing this match, it was classic older school Triple H. It was DX, but he still had a lot of his, blue blood to him still. He had the braid in the back of his hair, and, it was nice seeing Owen again. I haven't watched an Owen match in a while, so, all around, very happy watching it with you guys.
Yeah, it was coming off of the Montreal Screwdrive. So this match was in March of 1998. And the Montreal Screwdrive was November of 1997. So all of the Harts departed WWE except for Owen. Owen made his return trying to get his revenge on DX, which is what set up this European title match at WrestleMania 14. It was a technically sound match, great match, what you'd expect from Owen Hart and Triple H of this era, like you said, John Smith. It's a fine pick for number 12 on his list. It was not one that was on my radar, so well played, Mr. Karl. Well played. Okay, we have a couple of things to talk about before we get out of here. We do still have the Jim the Anvil Neidhart giveaway. If you'd like to win this Jim the Anvil Neihart autograph picture courtesy of Sideline Sports and Memorabilia, all you have to do is go to this video on YouTube, hit subscribe button, RKO the notification bell, and make a comment on this video with the hashtag EWPAnvil. We'll be announcing a winner when we get to 200 subscribers, so make sure you stay tuned for when we're announcing the winner. The Primetime Rundown, powered by StreamYard, with Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca, is airing Fridays at 6 p.m. Make sure you check that out this week. And then for our college sports fans, and for those pursuing a career in collegiate athletics, this interview may be for you. Join Ian Schreier on Monday, January 25th at 8 p.m. when he welcomes Co-SIDA President Sam Atkinson to the show. For more information, follow the Eastern Observer on social media or log on to theeasternobserver.com. I do a show Monday through Thursday. It's called the Daily Wrestling News Show. John Smith, John DeConnie, and Karl and Travis, who chimed in earlier in the show, they all come on to co-host with me. It's a great time. We'll be back tomorrow with special guest Jeff Johnson making his debut. So stop by that show to get your news, a little bit of recap, review the occasional interview, but we always end the show with trivia. So it's a good time. The Black Cats, they've still got an album out there that you can go listen to anywhere you listen to music. Who doesn't like free cake? That's the name of their album. And then, of course, join us next week for episode 37. We will have out-sprinted WrestleMania numbers. So I don't even know what we're going to say next week to open the show, but episode 37 next week at 6 p.m. Go on to ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Make your picks for all the week's matches, especially Hard to Kill this weekend and New Year's Smash tomorrow night. Before we get out of here, I want to update everybody on the men and women's Royal Rumble. We have 5 people declared for the men's Royal Rumble: Daniel Bryan, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and Otis. Things are shaping up. And then we also have, on the women's side, we've got 6 people. As of last night, Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke adding their names to the hat. They also joined Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, and Bayley. And if you'd like to get the full scoop, once we know all the information on the Royal Rumble, join us on Saturday, January 30th at 3 p.m. We are going to be doing our quarterly special to talk and break down the Royal Rumble. It's all things Royal Rumble. You can see there a picture of Ric Flair from Royal Rumble 1992, where he won with a tear in his eye. We'll be going through all our fun Royal Rumble memories and breaking down, of course, the Royal Rumble 2021, which will be happening the next day, January 31st. Okay, I think we've done the week wrestling justice, John Smith and John DeConnie and King Kong Bundy. For Gary Mehaffy, for King Kong Bundy, for John Smith, John DeConnie, take us home.
Last, but certainly not least, I just want to tip my hockey cap once again to Karl for sticking with his WWE superfan gimmick. At the beginning of the show, he always finds a way to tie in that number's WrestleMania, and a secondary tagline to this year's WrestleMania, and they had the T-shirts to prove it, was WrestleMania 36, Tampa, Florida. I wasn't there. So good job, Al, for sticking to your gimmick, even on the EWP.
Well,
Thanks for joining us, folks. Thanks for joining us. And as always, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors.